Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Voices of Forestry podcast. I'm your host, Seth Stephenson, the communications coordinator with the Arkansas Forestry Association, and we are back this month with a brand new episode, a brand new topic, and a brand new voice of forestry, actually, this month. We're going to be talking about changes in paper use, using one of our local paper mills here in Arkansas as an example, kind of what they've seen over the years and how we as a society are using paper. But before we hop into that and before we introduce our guests, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to our sponsor this month, Big Creek Timber Company. We're going to hear a little bit more from them later on in this episode. But for now, let me introduce Tammy Waters, the Public Affairs Manager over at Domtar's Ashdown Mill here in Arkansas. She is also our current AFA president on our board. So Tammy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Seth. Happy to be here.
So Tammy, real quick, if you don't mind, since you are new to the show, can you give us just a quick rundown of your professional history, please?
Sure. So again, Tammy Waters, and I've been with Domtar a little over 22 years. And in that role, I've always been with Ashdown, but also now we have a more regional approach to public affairs. And so I do have facilities in other states, but my office is actually in Ashdown. It's where I grew up, so that's home for me. And Domtar's been a great company for me. I've had that many opportunities that have been afforded to me and have definitely seen a lot of changes. So excited to be a part of this episode today and talk about paper.
And you've actually, this is just a fun anecdote that Max likes to throw around. He actually hired you when he was working for Domtar, and he was your boss for a hot minute. Now you are technically his boss here during your tenure at AFA.
Well, I actually hadn't thought about it like that, Seth. That's an interesting way to put it. No, actually, so I had worked for the Attorney General's office in the state, and so this opportunity at Domtar came open, and I did. I interviewed with Max, and he was very gracious and brought me on board. I learned a lot from him, and it's been such a pleasure to see him. And really, I mean, he's excelled. He has a passion for our industry and for what forestry and the importance of it in the state of Arkansas. So, yes, I'm glad we still get to work together, just in different roles.
Yeah, yes. Well, I'll tell you what, Tammy, let's kind of hop into our topic, the kind of changes in paper use over the years. But before we really get into the weeds about this, what I want to do is just let's talk about what Domtar does. For people who don't know, what is it that Domtar does?
Sure. And of course, being here in Arkansas, let's talk about Domtar's Ashdown Mill specifically.
Yes, ma'am,
yeah. So the mill opened its doors in 1968 as a paper mill. So we're focused on uncoated free sheet, which what we all know is copy paper. And so we just continue to see that facility grow. It's over 2,500 acres. And so at its highest, there was 4 operational paper machines. And that's the way it was when I started there 22 years ago. We had 4 machines operating, all making different types of copy paper. We had check paper. We had paper at that time that was used for the sticks of lollipops. So we've seen a wide array of different products that have been produced with the paper we have there at Ashdown. But we've definitely seen our share of changes too. And, you know, when you talk about paper and the changes, I think Ashdown's a great example to look at. You know, with 4 operating paper machines, and through the years, most of those machines have been closed. But probably the biggest thing that happened was several years ago. And I might say, you know, kudos to a company like Domtar that saw the changes within the industry and what was happening, and we could have easily put our head in the sand. And so, but they didn't. They thought out of the box and wanted to see Ashdown be successful, and so they did make a huge decision, big investment several years ago to take that largest paper machine and convert it to a fluff pulp machine.
That was kind of one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you guys about this, was the fluff pulp that you guys are making was actually voted in 2023 as the coolest thing made in Arkansas.
Yes, and our employees were so proud, and it was a well-deserved honor for them. So yes, for a facility that's known for being a paper mill, I mean, we are a paper and pulp facility. And so our A1 machine, as we call it, it produces fluff pulp, which is an absorbency type material that goes in everything from baby diapers to adult diapers to feminine hygiene products. So very important product. It has many different uses. And so, again, a very creative way. And so, no, we don't make, that machine doesn't make any paper anymore. No uncoated free sheet. It's truly just focused on the fluff pulp or market pulp.
Well, so, and let me reiterate this too. You know, we're talking with you guys and talking about specifically the Ashdown Domtar Mill, just as an example. But, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Tammy, but most of this can be relatable to other paper mills in other areas, correct?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
I look at just within Domtar, we have a facility in Tennessee, Kingsport, Tennessee, and their focus has definitely changed. They're now in the linerboard business, so that's what's so great about wood products is there's so many things that come from a great resource that we have an abundance of here in the state. I believe that's one of the reasons Ashdown continues to be successful is number one, the people, but also because of the wood basin and what we were able to pull from and be able to, produce these different type products that the customers need. I think about the history and how it's changed and we really didn't speak about the changes in paper, but we all know it has a lot to do with technology.
Oh, yeah.
And how, I think about when I first started at the mill 22 years ago, we were one of the largest producers of check paper. Well, if we took a poll, most of your listeners, majority might not even write checks, or if they're like my kids don't know how to write checks because they don't have to, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, again, just changes due to technology and advancements in technology as well. So we've definitely had to recreate ourselves, and I'm, again, I'm very appreciative of a company that's done a good job of that.
Well, and that kind of takes us to the actual changes that we've seen. Growing up, I can remember there being a big push for, saving paper, saving trees, that whole thing. So that, and then the big shift to online shopping. It's two very different changes. One is you're wanting to use less paper products. The other, we happen to be using more because we're purchasing more online. So what are some of the changes? You mentioned the check stuff. What are some of the changes that you have seen during your time at Domtar?
Well, and you bring up a good point. I think about even our Kingsport facility in Tennessee. Think about linerboard, which is when you look at the need for boxes. Well, because of the Amazons of the world. You think about how many things get delivered to your door. How important that is. I'm trying to think. There's so many great examples, but I think that I'll look back at COVID and what that did. We had, during the COVID period, early on in COVID, we actually closed down one of our operational paper machines. And then when things starting to ease up a little bit and we saw schools back in session and colleges opening their doors, more people going back to the office, then we saw an increase in needs. So for the paper market, it's all about supply and demand. And so we actually brought that machine back up and it was operational for a while. We're going to indefinitely pause that machine's operation here later this summer and start our pulp dryer up at Ashdown. But again, it's about supply and demand and the needs of the market and what our customers need. And we need to be attuned to what those customer needs are.
And so that kind of, takes me into my next question, Tammy, is, how exactly changes in paper use, whether it's advocacy for saving trees or using less paper or just more shopping online, how those affect a paper mill. So the machines that you guys are using, they're not just churning out paper products and you guys just shrug your shoulders if you have nowhere to take them. You can shut them off on and off as needed, right?
Yeah, I think flexibility is the name of the game, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's we could assume what people need, but it's, our team does a great job of building relationships with our customers and having dialogue with, our suppliers, knowing, what's coming down the pike. I look at the relationships that we've built with our, within the wood supply basin. I mean, those are critically important to us because every time we make a change, that could be a shift in what our needs are from the hardwood to the softwood, depending on, what we're needing to run. So, those partnerships are critically important to us, and we're, very grateful. And when you talk about the forest, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about having a healthy forest, and that's extremely important to us at Domtar. Sustainability is extremely important to Domtar, and I think that's reflected in the decisions that we've made. We don't make our decisions lightly. We realize the impact that decisions can make, and that's why it's important to have those strong partnerships and have transparency and work together so we all can be successful.
Okay. Well, Tammy, I tell you what, we're going to actually take a quick break right now, and we're going to hear a little bit more from our sponsors this month, Big Creek Timber Company. Big Creek Timber Company proudly supports the AFA and has been in operation since 2004. Doing the best job and getting the best rates for the landowners they serve are their top priorities. They are a family-owned and operated business founded by Mr. Randy Gill, who has 40-plus years of experience in the timber industry. They take their reputation of honesty and integrity very seriously. Quality logging jobs, fair prices, business with integrity, that's what is important to the folks at Big Creek Timber Company. For more information, give them a call at 501-337-4855 or look them up at bigcreektimberco.com. Thank you once again to Big Creek Timber Company for their support of the show. So, Tammy, we're entering the second half of our conversation here, kind of the tail end of what we're going to be talking about this month. But you guys have, and you've kind of mentioned that y'all are always looking at supply and demand and stuff like that, but do you guys have actual people looking at markets, keeping an eye on kind of what's going on in the market world to influence what you guys are doing in the mill?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, at a company level, we're very have folks that are very focused on that. We have to be, right? So if you look historically at paper, I mean, the trend has always been about a 3 to 4% decline year after year. And so, COVID was an interesting period just because it was so unexpected for all of us and what that did. But, we still see a decrease. And so we have to be able to respond to that. But in the meantime, we still have to be able to meet the needs of our customers because, in my opinion, paper is not going to go away.
Yeah.
It's just the different uses that you see for it. And maybe it's not the greatest level when we talked about, checks were a great example, but just think of all the things we could talk about. Think about books, years ago, the Kindle, when it came out, but more and more you see, I've read a recent article again that talked about how, a lot of studies show that students can learn better from actually have a handheld book. I, for one, love to hold my book or maybe write in it, or, if I'm studying something, to be able to highlight in it. You don't have that ability if you use technology. Again, there's options available to folks. And so we have to be aware of that. And also I look at even in a school setting, that's a great example of, tests are taken on computers now. And so they don't, do they still use paper? Most definitely. Is it still needed? Most definitely. And I think they appreciate it, but there's other options out there too. So all of that plays into, the needs out there for the customers. And so we just want to make sure that we're ready, able, and flexible to meet the needs. And
So what is the biggest product, I guess, that you guys are currently producing? Is it still just the standard copy paper, or is
no, at Ashdown, our large machine producing the fluff pulp is really a major focus. And, we do have a machine that's still producing uncoated free sheet. And, but it will be, temporarily idled this summer. And we'll start running our pulp dryer. Our team is very good at doing that and being flexible. And so if there's a need, we could step back in. And I also think, you look at Domtar's history. I mean, they've never put their head in the sand on, and so I would expect you would see down the road, whether it's Ashdown or other facilities, I think they'll always be creative and seeing what opportunities are out there to try new different things with wood products. And so we'll look forward to that. And if that challenge is presented to the Ashdown team, I'm quite confident they're going to rise up and meet it.
Well, and so where do you see the future of paper use or paper mills? What do you think that's going to look like here 5-10-ish years down the road? Is it just kind of going with the flow and meeting the needs as they arise, or is there something kind of on the horizon that you think is coming?
I know there's unique technologies that are being looked at, and I want to think that we're ahead of the game, so maybe there's not anything we can announce today, but I think that there's a lot of work going behind the scenes to see, what the needs are and what our capabilities are, whether it's at Ashdown or one of our other facilities. Domtar is in a unique position right now in that we are basically 3 companies going through integration. So what's exciting about that between Paper Excellence, Resolute, and Domtar is think of the synergies and the opportunities as we all come together and start sharing ideas. So that's pretty exciting times for us. So for me, when I look at the future of our industry, when I look at the future for Domtar and Ashdown specifically, I think it's very bright. And I'm super excited to see what the future holds and what we'll be involved with. And maybe it'll be a totally different product. Maybe it'll be starting a paper machine back up. Who knows? But whatever it is that they ask us to do, we're going to be prepared and ready.
Well, and then you said it earlier in the episode too, the great thing about wood and forest products is that it's flexible. It can, there's not really a replacement for Amazon boxes or for the things that fluff pulp go in. There's no technological alternative for stuff like that. So as long as those things still stay as they are, you guys are going to be moving along and trucking.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, Tammy, is there anything else that you want to add or you want to say before we kind of wrap this up?
No, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come and visit with you today. I mean, it's such a joy, and we appreciate the Arkansas Forestry Association. I will say this, let me just end on this note. When I think about us as a company thinking out of the box, I think the association has done the same thing. We've all had to recreate ourselves. Oh, yeah. I mean, 10 years ago, could you imagine us doing a podcast?
No, not at all. Absolutely not.
We all changed based on what the needs are out there. And so I think it's important that we continue to tell our story. We have a great story to tell, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a part today.
Awesome. Well, Tammy, thank you for joining us. I know I'm catching you before a meeting today, so thank you for kind of stopping in and knocking out a quick episode with me.
Happy to do so. Awesome. Thanks.
Well, we want to thank you guys for joining us this month as well. As always, we want to give a shout out and a thank you to some guy named Rob McCormick for the use of our theme song, The Same Love. That's off of his album, The Folkster. You can find more of his music on Spotify. And as always, we've got a link to his website in the description of this episode. One more thank you as well to Big Creek Timber Company for their support of the show. And we want to make sure that you guys join us next month when we'll have a new topic, a new discussion, and a new Voice of Forestry.